We just bought a fifth wheel, packed most of our belongings into it, and drove it 1,400 miles from North Carolina down to Texas while learning a few things along the way. And was it perfect? Far from it. Let's start with picking up the camper. As part of our ever-ending last-minute decisions, we decided to buy a camper for New Year's and hit the road full-time as a little experiment. Just kidding, guys, we planned this for a little over 2 years. Please do not panic or worry about us. Living in Charlotte, North Carolina, we picked out a dealership 2 hours away in Asheville and purchased a 2023 Jayco Eagle for our first ever home on wheels. On January 2nd, we make the drive out and pick our little Bluebird up and drive her back home to our apartment to start the move-in process. However, I have never drove anything this size, and well, I had a few concerns on how this would go. As soon as we arrive, we are told to drive on back and start the process of hitching up for our first time. And by the way, the team over at Miles RV Center is excellent and helped us out with all the newbie questions we had. About an hour later, after a walkthrough, we hitch up and start pulling it out of the parking lot. Needless to say, the first time hitting the road was a bit daunting. With a little anxiety, we eventually make it back to our apartment complex, all in one piece, and not a single car was damaged when backing it up into place. Phew, now it's time to rest, as the next 2 days, which is all the apartment complex gave us, we would be moving all our belongings into the RV and leave on the third morning, January 5th. So today we just start moving stuff in, right? That's our goal today.
That is the goal today.
First thing in the morning, we hit the ground running in a hurry to clean out our apartment, and I felt a little lost as it was a hard time trying to decide what to get rid of versus what we wanted to keep. This meant parting with some things that we just couldn't see ourselves giving away. And for this to work, Jessica and I needed to communicate effectively and work together diligently. If not, we would get in each other's way and cause a ton of frustration. I know these people have to hate me because they had a hard time getting out this morning. One thing we both realized quickly is that this is going to take a lot longer than we anticipated, and it will require staying up a bit later than our 9:30 bedtime call. We should finish up tomorrow on time, but still a little worried. We ended up coming to a stopping point around 11:30 p.m. after being on our feet for a solid 16 hours. Also, we became aware of how much stuff we've packed into this tiny 900 square foot apartment over these past 4 years. On day 2, we woke up feeling a bit pressured and a little tired, knowing we still had a long ways to go before we can leave, which was happening in less than 24 hours.
I'm stressed.
We've been at each other's throat for the past day and a half.
Not really. Just today. Today, yeah. Yesterday wasn't bad.
We enlisted one of our friends, Albert, to come help us move the heavier things like the washer and the king mattress into the rig. That's where we ran into our first mistake. We didn't measure the door width. Our washer cabinet is located in the bedroom closet, and the washer didn't fit through the bedroom door, which we ultimately had to return. We just hoped at this point the campground laundromats worked well. After returning the washer, we came back and started yet again on trying to move everything out. We even recruited some help from 2 of our friends who stayed with us till 1 a.m. in the morning, moving everything out, and even as helpful as that was, it still was not enough to help finish everything, as there was a few items left that needed discarding. After they left, Jessica and I could not bear to go up and down 3 flights of stairs anymore, so we decided to call it quits for the night with the expectation to wake up around 5 a.m., finish everything, and hit the road by 7 a.m. The morning of January 5th, the day we are scheduled to depart on our journey, we wake up to more boxes and more things to throw out, and things we simply don't know what to do with. So look, we got everything moved out so far, and it's a little echoey in here. It's day 3, man. Like we're supposed to be on the road by now. It's close to 10 o'clock. We're probably gonna get down to Louisiana a little late tonight, so. Knowing we have an 8-hour drive ahead of us, we hurry and find a place for all the remaining items. We were planning on leaving at 7 a.m., but after a morning of double checking things, turning in our keys, and figuring out how to hitch up the RV again, we finally hit the road shortly after noon, about 5 hours behind schedule. With all of our bags packed, our last step was to attach the license plate to the RV and hit the road heading on a beeline to our first hip camp stay in Alabama. Fast forward to a few hours later, and we are still on the road around 9 p.m. when I can feel my physical body starting to shut down.
Make it to our hip camp that we're supposed to stay at. A little too far for what we could do for the night. We still had like an extra 150 miles to go, so we're just gonna stop here, pull out the slides, sleep on the bed, and get moving in the morning.
And sleep our first night in the RV. Waking up a bit refreshed and going into our longest transit day with a little over 700 miles to drive to our next hip camp stay in Port Lavaca, Texas, we start heading out around 7 a.m. sharp to help mitigate the travel delays. However, we are excited as we get to pass through the cities of Mobile, Alabama, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Houston on our way down to South Texas. This is the first time Jessica or I have toured that far south. And around 10 p.m. we finally make it down to Port Lavaca after a 15-hour drive, and we have just enough energy to set up and go to sleep for the night. However, this time we do decide to plug in our rig for the first time and see what it looks like with a 50 amp service.
So it's 1 in the morning, we got to Texas, we got to our first hip camp stay, and let me tell you guys, it has been a rough 24 hours. Getting up early, dealing with Kenai, he is restless, and we didn't account for all the things that was going to fall down. We didn't account for all the things that we packed incorrectly, and stuff fell down, stuff got scratched up, stuff in our fridge, we had to throw out half of that, and yeah.
It's too bad we didn't have a chance to check out anything nearby, as it looked like a pretty cool town. And shortly after hitting the road, we stopped for breakfast at a place called Canela's Cafe, which was okay. The people was nice, but the food was about a 4 out of 10. However, there is a DQ right down the road. Next stop is Alamo, Texas. As south as you can go in Texas, which is about 10 to 15 miles away from the border of Mexico. And a couple hours later, we pulled into our first ever campground, Alamo Palms, which is a part of the Thousand Trails system for our first ever stay. By now, picking up the camper seems like a distant memory, even though it was just a few days ago. However, we still have a few things left to do, like de-winterize the camper and clean up the inside after what looked like a tornado just hit. Now that we are in Alamo, we are excited to check out the town, along with some local restaurants, and we also heard about South Padre Island, and really finding our new routine, if that's such a thing now. With our first travel of our freshman year complete, we will get a taste of what it's really like to live full-time, as we will be here at this location for 2 weeks. So feel free to subscribe to the channel and check back with us next week to see what Alamo Palms RV Resort is really all about. Thank you for joining us on our first ever travel.